edit here. Thank you guys so much for the support for the last video. You guys are awesome! Oh boy, another $500 million movie from X company. Can't wait to see this.
Well, this sucks.
Hey, I'm Gandalf, and today I want to talk about the arts. No, don't leave! When I'm talking about the arts, I mean, specifically for this video, movies, games, and TV shows. I made a video talking about how gaming companies specifically are failing, so go check out that video for a bit of context for a portion of this video. But in the past, decade or so, for Hollywood and animation, it really does feel like the passion of the arts has been completely eroded in the media. We're going to do a little sandwich method for this video, where we're going to start with the positives of the older movies, games, and shows, and go into the more middle, current era where, most passion is devoid and is completely gone. But we're going to finish with the positives, that being the rare gems in media that are currently making directors feel like they see the audience as real, thinking adults and not just mindless wallets. Let's go back in time. The year is 1980, and Stanley Kubrick was directing a movie that would shock people for decades to come. The Shining. A movie so iconic and so referenced, you've probably accidentally heard about it through other movies or TV shows. Hell, My Little Pony has a reference to this fucking movie. But why? Why is this random slasher movie so iconic and so beloved? Well, it's because Kubrick was a staunch perfectionist. So much so, people are still theorizing to this day. He might have either been autistic or maybe had a little bit of OCD, who knows. These traits blend seamlessly into the entirety of this film, though. There's this scene in the movie follows Danny riding a tricycle through the Overlook Hotel, which was inspired by the real-life Stanley Hotel. For those of you who don't know, the Stanley Hotel is considered to be mega fucking haunted.
Oh shit! A ghost!
Stephen King, the author of the original Shining book, stayed there and had a completely life-altering nightmare. And he claimed that nightmare was so vivid, he had the whole book of The Shining planned out by the time he finished his cigarette on his balcony. Does this prove the hotel is haunted? Of course fucking not. But it does prove that the passion was involved in this project from the very foundations. I'm sure most of you have heard the famous 127 take story, but if you haven't,
let me break it down for you, Mark.
Basically, there's a scene in the movie where Shelley Duvall, rest in power queen, had to do the same scene in the movie where she's holding a baseball bat and walking down the staircase over 127 times. Mind you, this has full dialogue, so this probably took a few days for all of this to film, for all we fucking know. The average time for a Hollywood movie shoot in the 80s was around 19 to 120 days. This movie took over 200 days to shoot.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa!
That's too damn bad!
This guy was so well known in Hollywood for being a perfectionist, I'm not surprised he had multiple arguments with Jack Nicholson over the brutal production of this film. This is what I mean when I say that passion is almost completely gone from movies. This guy sees a millimeter of a difference in the natural light bleeding inside. Cut! Let's do it again, because a bird flew off cue or some shit. Speaking of lighting, we gotta talk about the Netflix lighting problem that I see. It completely kills the love and joy out of films and TV shows nowadays. Look at the difference in lighting between these two scenes. Here we have a scene from Devil Wears Prada, another iconic movie from this era in Hollywood. Notice how there is very obviously some stage light, but they're using the majority of natural light to their advantage to make it feel real and like you're present in the office with scary Meryl Streep. Okay, now let's look at Stranger Things. Every single shot looks the same in the lighting. It looks like they flashbanged Millie Bobby Brown in the production this whole show going, "Don't worry, it's almost over, I promise." The Shining is probably going to be one of those movies we look back on, remembering a seemingly bygone era in Hollywood, where directors were okay with pushing their crew to the limit to make the best film they possibly could. Hell, there were rumors of Kubrick basically breathing down the editors' necks and drowning themselves in hundreds of takes for all the scenes, making sure they constantly rewatched the takes to get the best ones. Now, I can't talk about the Shining movie without first mentioning Stephen King's opinions on the film itself. He hated it.
Whoa! This is worthless.
Of course, Stephen King, being the author of the story, has every right to his own opinions on how his story is adapted. But I think he might just be a tad bit biased looking back. Same author that put this in the original It novel, so he can't exactly be too upset that people like to cut shit from his books. Next up is a game that a lot of people know and love. A game so iconic, it's still talked about this day. You know it, You love it. We all want it on PC so fucking badly. It's... Without a shadow of a doubt, this game is the epitome of a passion project. Let's get into it. First off, the environment. Bloodborne, for those of you who have never been, stuck on a boss for 13 hours straight in a Souls game, takes place in a city called Yharnam. Yharnam is a Gothic-inspired city, and it fucking shows. Look at those spiraling cathedrals, these imposing towers and buildings. It almost feels like the architecture has been specifically studied in order to showcase this time period. Oh wait! It was! For this project, Miyazaki, the director of FromSoft, had his game devs and art team learn authentic Gothic architecture from real experts. And it shows. Even just beyond Yharnam, the different locations look like something straight out of a Tim Burton film or a Gothic novel from the 1700s. It really feels like this world looks like the word melancholy itself. But what does it sound like? How about that? What would a world without hope, without joy, and without any escape but death sound like? Where's that boss music coming from? Bloodborne's soundtrack was an incredibly amazing experience to go through. And it's also a collaborative effort from both European composers and Japanese composers. And I highly recommend giving the full soundtrack a listen. They made the bold decision to use live orchestra instead of just robo-bitch synthesized music that a lot of games seem to use nowadays. And because of that, you hear everything. Every violin, every cello, everything feels authentic. It's a really good and super solid opera piece as well. Check out this guy's breakdown of my favorite song. There's a certain level of passion you can feel in this project. And I would dare you to say in any media, not just movies or games. And I feel like the leap from the page and the sound of the orchestra playing as you fight for your life feels like a story being told to us, the player. It feels as though you can smell the carpets of the hotel for The Shining. That's what passion feels like. And there's one more passion project I want to go into. Sorry, two. My bad. Editor note here, two. Many of you remember it. Maybe some of you have only heard of it, but it changed me as a kid, and then it changed me again as a young adult when I rewatched it during COVID. I'm talking about Alright, let's talk about a show with so much love, care, and passion that chalking it up to just a kids show should be a federal offense. Avatar wasn't some lazy Nickelodeon boardroom idea where someone went, what if Pokemon? But people. World building is hard because a writer has to craft a believable world with believable rules without turning it into a Wattpad page. Just because you have a lot of lore, by the way, does not mean that it is good or a compelling story. But with Avatar, it really wanted to be a lived-in world in every sense of the word. Creators Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, I fucking butchered that name, I'm so sorry, sir, built entire cultures from the ground up. They used architecture built off of real-world dynasties, clothing modeled after specific time periods, class, family status. Ever notice why the clothes look different depending on where the characters are and what nation they're in? Because not all nations are in the same economic state during a war. The Fire Nation is established literally into the intro of the show as being the aggressor in this conflict.
Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Which is why we see such immense poverty in the colonized Earth Kingdom and normality and wealth in the Fire Nation. They're the ones benefiting from a war, so their people are also benefiting. Also, they did their fucking research with these cultures. Much like how FromSoft consulted experts on Victorian-era music because, shocker, Japanese composers should ask for help on a culture that they want to do justice to. Fuck you, Ubisoft. The creators of Avatar had calligraphy done by actual Chinese calligraphers. They didn't just wing it and go, fuck it, who cares? For food, culture, social hierarchy, and symbols of the water tribe. They looked into real Inuit cultures to better understand them. Meanwhile, most cartoons are like, here's a forest, put a goofy looking animal in it, I don't fucking care. Avatar went, here's 4 nations built on distinct philosophical traditions that affect their economic, religion, and government, martial arts, and social hierarchy. For a Nickelodeon show, mind you. Proving once again, there's a major difference between a paycheck and a passion project. I know that a lot of people might already know this, but I cannot ignore the martial arts history within Avatar as a project. Most of the fans of the show know this, but let me just tell you. The bending styles of Avatar are based, modeled, and even fucking motion captured after real martial arts. They didn't go, just wave your hands and some sparkles come out. I don't know. They brought this man named Sifu Kitsu. I probably butchered that name as well, God. He's an actual martial arts expert. My man prestiged almost every martial art out there. And he's the one that gave real foundations on bending styles. Waterbending is based off of Chai Chi.
What did you just say?
Waterbending is based off of Tai Chi because it follows about flow and redirection. Earthbending is based off of Hung Gar, which is a Chinese kung fu style based off of staying rooted, powerful stances, and wanting to beat the shit out of your opponent without moving too much. Remember how Toph fights and it always feels like she's trying to make the earth tap out? Yeah, not just for cool effects. Firebending is based off of the northern Shaolin style of kung fu, extremely fast and aggressive.
Firebenders are steeped in my preferred style, Northern Shaolin Kung Fu. It's a very strong, dynamic style.
Remember, the Shaolin monks used to fight in wars, so if it came time to jump a motherfucker in the Tongue Shao Pass from Mulan, they were able to make sure that they were annoying as hell to fight against. Lastly, we got airbending. Airbending is based off of, I'm gonna butcher this, Bahuazhang, a martial art that is meant to be more evasive than anything. I wonder how a group of monks in the mountains would fight, especially if they're pacifists. This even has a tangible effect on the story. Zuko starts the show with hyper-aggressive fighting like Shaolin style, because he's an angry kid who was both emotionally and physically abused by his father. But as the show grows, so does he. His style resembles Iroh much more because he's growing slowly, and that leads to the finale. Oh yeah, we gotta talk about the finale of Avatar real quick. The finale of Avatar literally took almost a full year of work. Multiple animation studios worked on it, systems crashed multiple times, new animation pipelines were invented on the fly to make the fight between Aang and Ozai, and the poetic fight between Zuko and Azula. Again, this is why Avatar The Last Airbender is so fondly remembered. Because even without these cool facts that you could flex at a trivia night, the show feels like a labor of love. Speaking of friendship being magic, let's talk about... Alright, gotta be honest here. My Little Pony is more of a passion project than over half of what Netflix has produced. No, seriously. Beneath the sparkles and rainbows, this show has a heart at the center that makes you smile the whole time. We gotta start with Lauren Faust, the creator of the show. She came from an absolute banger list of shows, like Powerpuff Girls and Foster's. So she walked into Hasbro like, I'm making a show, here's my resume. And they were like, okay. She built up the show using the foundation of 3 previous generations. Not to bash the previous generations, but they were a lot like the Transformers show. It realistically only existed to sell toys. Now that's not to say that My Little Pony Friendship is Magic or Generation 4 of the show wasn't about selling toys. It definitely was. But the creator had real stories to tell that matter so much more than Q3 sales. She made characters with arcs, flaws, growth. Take Fluttershy, a character meant to intentionally seem as a one-note character when she's introduced in the beginning of the show, but she gets a ton of episodes to shine and grow over time. Bro, look at Rarity. She's meant to be a seemingly posh fashionista, the kind of person to rant about the latest fashion runway while everyone just begs for her to play Monopoly. But she gets an episode about perfectionism, burnout, ambition, and artistic integrity, something that creators and a lot of people in the creative space struggle with every day. The show is actually interested in telling a story worth hearing. Speaking of worth hearing, this show has tackled some heavy-ass topics.
Today's subject is slavery.
My Little Pony, yes, My Little Pony treats the audience like thinking, rationalizing humans better than Disney's Wish does. This show, again, a kids show, talks about anxiety, social rejection, jealousy, loneliness, imposter syndrome, betrayal, trauma, personal accountability, leadership pressures, racism, cults, and SH. Let's talk about how the show tackles racism, or one way it does. The show is really good at tackling hard topics, mind you. They have an episode about a zebra lady named Zecora. Obviously, she's meant to be African-coded in a lot of ways, from the way she wears jewelry, to the way she speaks, to her being a literal witch doctor inspired by African hoodoo practices. The ponies judge her because she looks different, and they get paranoid and end up getting harmed in the process. Zecora helps them out, and the message is what's important here. The creators don't belittle our intelligence as an audience, and that message is given in a digestible way for both kids and adults. It's not that hard, because judging someone based on preconceived notions or because of what you hear on social media, I'm not fucking joking, this show literally has an episode on how media outlets manipulate people, is ridiculous. This show has actual love, care and soul in it, and it feels it the entire way through. Not once when you watch the show do you feel like it's just a cash grab. It always feels like it has a real story and a real lesson to tell. Unfortunately, we got to talk about where Hollywood is and it currently sits at. Corporate slop devoid of any emotion, depth, and passion. Oh boy, let's talk about movies first. Disney has just continued to flop with their IPs. Marvel has been limping since Endgame, but a few exceptions don't change the rule. Black Panther 2, Ant-Man 3, and Thor, Love and Thunder, as well as the Marvels, all felt way less impressive as achievements as the original Marvel movies, or even some later entries that kind of like stick out. And you'd think that the movies would be better with their absolutely ludicrous budgets. $250 million for this? $330 million for this? But it's not just Disney that's the problem. The term Netflix original used to mean something. It was Netflix taking a risk of some sort, like not using a pre-existing IP or a well-established enough IP and making something special. Now it's just whatever IP they bought or acquired and shat out. Stranger Things does not make Netflix a good company. Quit glazing. Point is, a lot of movie companies and studios are just in it for the money now, trying to create the next MCU or pump out as much half-cocked sequels as possible. This is what I mean when I say that all sense of passion feels gone from these studios. You know your company is rotten to the core when your writers don't have to read the source material, but actively ignore it when someone like Henry Cavill, who is a fan of the Witcher series and has much more experience with the IP, and they don't fucking listen to him. But no, the writers want to stroke their own ego and add as much girl boss moments to the show with no worth because they don't make any actual contextual sense. And good luck waiting for any sort of a payoff in this damn show.
How long is this going to take?
Going to gaming, we have Ubisoft. Ubisoft made Assassin's Creed Shadows and went, hey, what if we spent $200 million and none of that went to giving a fuck? Yeah, you heard that right. This game has a budget of a Marvel movie and still turned it into a pick-me version of Ghost of Tsushima. Starting off strong, the collector's edition of this game had fake Japanese. I repeat, fake Japanese in a collector's edition
For a game set in Japan!
Did they get language advice from the fucking I Wanna Be Ninja lady?
I want to be ninja!
And mind you, I'm not talking about a typo or some Japanese being badly translated. I'm talking about the Japanese was straight up gibberish. This collector's edition went through a writer, designers, marketing, quality assurance, and product teams, and somehow everyone went, yeah, looks Japanese enough, ship it. This game literally feels like a white person in Canada went, oh, what's Japan like, eh? Remember for the Ezio trilogy how they hired actual historians to make sure they could align real-world history with their fictional story that they were telling? Remember when they sent people out to the Caribbean for Black Flag so that they could properly understand the context of what Nassau meant to the free slaves, so that in the game, when it falls, it feels really impactful. Yeah, that's gone entirely. These motherfuckers went into a sushi shop owned by a Thai family and that's how Okinawa is. There's no other explanation. Remember how Ubisoft had to invent a new system for naval combat in Black Flag? For a world that's still one of the largest maps in gaming and creatively still one of the largest in Assassin's Creed? They took the copy-paste gameplay from Odyssey, animations directly from Valhalla, the exact same open world checklist system from 50 other Ubisoft games. They didn't make a game, they reheated leftovers in time for their Q4 report. Like, you know it's bad when the entire nation of Japan collectively calls you out for your bullshit. I cannot imagine a game so bad it unites an entire country to say fuck you. I love that. Ubisoft has some talented ass people working for them. It's the suits on top who only care about making profit. Mark my words, Ubisoft is either going to go bankrupt or is going to go so far they're just going to try to make a new Black Flag sequel for nostalgia bait. This is what I mean when I say passion and genuine care is gone from most modern day gaming spaces, because the people at the top don't care anymore, or they've been replaced by shareholders. I want to remind you guys real quick, Ubisoft started out with 5 brothers making educational software, and later they made games that they were passionate about. The Far Cry games used to be a labor of love, something that people can ponder or think about. Hell, the amount of video essays on this motherfucker is insane. Anyways, let's go talk about the massive slog and conglomerate that is. Animation has been in an interesting state now, because there are some incredible contenders that I'm going to talk about. I want to hyper-focus on how most modern animation, particularly Pixar, are completely creatively bankrupt. I don't want to hit on the animators too much, they're doing their jobs, but I'm really tired of the Pixar bean. For those of you who don't know, Pixar has kind of reused the same style for their characters commonly referred to as the bean. Here are some examples. Elio is one of the worst examples of this. Speaking of, I think Elio is proof of creative bankruptcy from Pixar. The same company that made The Incredibles, Ratatouille, hell, they made Inside Out. The problem with Pixar is that they're extremely inconsistent now.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
That magic in their movies that used to make us laugh, cry, feel. I'm serious, after this video, go watch either Ratatouille or Toy Story 3. Then go watch Elemental, Onward, or Luca. Trust me, you will see the difference. My point isn't to trash on the people who do like these movies, I'm just saying the passion feels gone for a modern day consumer. The suits up in Hollywood are whining that we aren't going to the movies as much, but I'll be damned if I spend $15 per person just to sit in a cramped theater, someone scrolling on TikTok to the left, two people yapping the whole movie or chewing way too loud on the right. Oh, and for spending all of that money, I got the privilege to sit in a half-withered theater seat. All for the movie not to be even that good. So yeah, it's no wonder that theaters are on a steady decline. There's of course some movies that deserve the big screen event like Oppenheimer, Dune Part 1 and 2, and Guardians 3. We'll get to them later, don't worry. Point is, I feel like very little passion is present in modern day Hollywood. It reminds me of big gaming companies right now, where all the cool little details that made their older projects so cool are just gone. They don't feel special anymore. But there are still gems in art. And there are still people who take risks, some directors that refuse to give up. Let's start out with passion today. We gotta start out with the movie that took the internet by storm. Oppenheimer. Yeah, Oppenheimer. That movie about a nerd thinking really hard for 3 hours. 90% of the movie is just dialogue. So if that's not the kind of movie you enjoy, that's fine. That's okay. But I gotta say, it feels like you are really following the life of an important person the whole time. The director Christopher Nolan chased the rights to the biography, the family of Oppenheimer, historians on the Manhattan Project, actual fucking physicists, and bro even got access to archival materials. Most studios wouldn't even greenlight this thing. Nolan basically had to flex his stellar career so that the studio would finally fund a risky film. But he argued that, given the problems with nuclear war right now, it's important to tell a story about physics and guilt, about a man driven to his breaking point with obsession, a man who slept around, and at the same time, did his best to defend his country and his people. And that same country immediately interrogates him for years for being a supposed communist. Granted, the feds did have some legit evidence. So, Mr. Oppenheimer, your brother is married to a communist, your cousin is a communist, you've attended many communist events, and you had an affair with multiple communist women.
Yeah, but I'm not a communist, I swear.
Point is, this story is really complicated. Let's start with the effects of the movie. Yeah, Nolan walked into the writer's booth, probably with bloodshot eyes, and went, "No CGI," and meant it. There's a very important moment towards the beginning of the film where Oppenheimer is established to be pretty bad at math, which obviously isn't great for someone trying to study physics. But a speaker/professor that he really admires talks to him, and the guy asks and says, it's not about if you can read the sheet music, it's about if you can hear it. Can you hear the music? And we are presented with a beautiful scene showing how Oppenheimer says he saw the universe around him, where Oppenheimer and hundreds of other people in New Mexico did the Trinity test. For some context, because I was the annoying history nerd in class, the Trinity test was the first test on the practical nuclear bomb, and the movie explains the dangerous implications. Basically, they had little idea on what this bomb could actually do. Hell, there was a good chance it would just ignite the atmosphere and fucking burn Earth alive. And so, in the film itself, the Trinity test, of course, is treated with respect. It should be treated with respect. It was very important. I'm telling you guys, this scene felt so visceral in the theater. That moment where Oppenheimer looks and sees the explosion, real explosion by the way, they used real bomb, you could feel the impact, that, oh my god, what have I just done feeling. And we as the audience hear the iconic phrase from Oppenheimer.
And now I have become death, the destroyer of worlds.
From the Bhagavad Gita. Nolan used real practical effects for a shot they could only do once. That's some Stanley Kubrick energy right there, bro. Hats off. Also, much like how James Cameron had to invent new underwater mocap technology for the second Avatar movie, Nolan wanted something specific for this movie that didn't exist yet. black and white IMAX film. Basically, in the film, there are scenes about political/legal storyline. This is a storyline in which Oppenheimer is being investigated for being a communist. This was during the Red Scare. Everybody was suspected of communism. Here's the problem. The whole movie is shot in IMAX film, and there wasn't such thing as black and white for IMAX film. Kodak, the producer of IMAX film, literally invented a new type of film because no one asked. And on top of that, IMAX themselves had to build new hardware to even process this new type of film. You do not get that level of dedication most of the time. You know those actors were totally giving it their all as well, because Robert Downey Jr. literally won an Oscar for this movie for Best Supporting Actor. And oh my god, we gotta talk about the score for this film. This movie's score was literally crafted by a master. Gosh, I'm gonna butcher this name, but Ludwig Göransson scored this movie like his life depended on it. You know you've written a good soundtrack where one song, named Countdown, literally manipulates your heartbeat timing. That's commitment. That's passion. Alright, I've glazed this movie enough. Time to talk about animation. K-pop Demon Hunters. Look, while K-pop Demon Hunters looks like a pop culture spectacle, and it is a huge hit right now, it has been for a while. Funny enough, it actually started from a place of genuine care for storytelling, not just a boardroom meeting. The director and co-writer, Maggie Kang, didn't come up with this movie because K-pop trending and trending go brr, but actually because she wanted to create a movie that represented Korean culture and mythology in a loving and meaningful way. Something that didn't exist in modern Hollywood. I wonder why. It's really refreshing to see someone see a gap in a market with their culture being underrepresented and actually doing something positive with that. The plot of K-pop Demon Hunters is literally in the title. It's demon hunters who sing K-pop. Watch the movie, I really recommend it, even if the devil incarnate is the one holding this movie hostage. Funny enough, the movie started out as a fantasy story rooted in Korean myth and demon lore, something that the director definitely would have been traumatized with as a kid. It reminds me of those weird German folktales. Remember, if you aren't good, the Flambogangen Windeschlagen will get you, yeah?
And even burn your fingers and toes.
Good night. Point is, this movie has a real pulse behind it, and you feel it the whole time. It also doesn't take itself too seriously, which in a worse movie would make the emotional moments feel stupid. But nah, this movie will make you laugh and cry. It has a phenomenal message about being your true self. And oh my goodness, the art style of this movie is like Spider-Verse, but somehow even more fluid. This movie knows it's a cartoon, so fuck it. Make the characters look like Mario villains for comedic effect at times. The art direction is amazing, the story is bonkers, and the movie knows it and just asks you to enjoy the wild ride. So, you know, what about the actual K-pop? Is the music good? The music is also expertly crafted for this film, and the fight scenes. I linked the opening to this movie in the description. If you don't like it, I don't know what else to tell you. This movie is peak. But we have one last project to talk about. Proof that even sometimes greedy, soulless, mouth-breathing corporations can accidentally let really talented people do their jobs. Yes, we're talking about Arcane. This show is a masterpiece, for lack of a better word. Season 2 was a little bit of a letdown in some story moments, but I want to talk about Season 1 specifically, and what it means for animation. This show has a fascinating art style. It's super unique and super alive. Characters somehow feel both grounded in reality and like an expressive cartoon. Arcane's story is pretty much what happens when Riot actually gives a shit about the mountains of lore they make their underpaid writers create. Fortiche is the animation company that they brought for this project, and holy shit, they brought their A-game. Basically, Fortiche was already known in the gaming industry as people who made incredible cinematics. So them getting to make a show with a company they already knew very well must have been a dream come true. Remember, Fortiche started out as 3 French dudes in 2009. They didn't come from a Hollywood or Disney pipeline. They just wanted to mix 2D and 3D animation. In a way, these guys actually laid the foundations for really good projects like K-pop Demon Hunters, Spider-Verse, and even Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So yeah, these people know their animation game. This team literally paused production on multiple occasions because they didn't feel like the characters' emotions were hitting hard enough. Yeah, that's the same energy as someone spending 200 days shooting The Shining. Instead of torturing Shelley Duvall, however, these people tortured their GPUs. This show could have been so much worse. For fuck's sake, people made memes if like Marvel had made the show instead, and the cringy Marvel dialogue that the MCU usually has. Oh my god, the cast literally made jokes about this and read some of the comments.
What are we? Some kind of League of Legends?
Passion needs to come back to the arts, because it's a means of escape from reality. That's why I have always enjoyed theater, because oftentimes I see the passion in the cast. I hear the orchestra doing their best to play with their literal souls. If you like videos like this, feel free to comment and leave a like. If you want to share your thoughts, go ahead and let me know. If you really like my content, a subscribe would be appreciated. As always, I'm Gandalf the Magical Wizard Cat, and a good day to you.